Good morning, everyone, and welcome to ITC Europe in Barcelona. My name is Sokhiba Mukhitdinova. I work as a VC principal at InsurTech New York in their fund arm. In the fund, we invested seed-stage startups in US, UK, and Canada, and all of them are insurance-specific. So thank you for having me today.
Hello, good morning. My name is Lluís Viñas. I'm a partner at the Mundi InsurTech funds. So we manage roughly between two funds around 300 million euros. We've invested in more than 50 InsurTech companies, mostly in Europe, but also in the US and everywhere else in the world. We've just launched a Latin American dedicated InsurTech fund last month, and we typically invest in Series A, Series B rounds, but we have flexibility. And our funds are mainly backed by insurance companies, so we work closely with several big international insurance companies.
Cool, thank you. Philip.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. My name is Philip Nag. I'm not one of the judges. I'm not one of the investors. I'm the first startup that I think gets to pitch today. I'm the CEO of Inca, which is an AI-based TPA, and I'm happy to take the reins in a few moments.
Cool. Okay, and then for just, if any of you don't know me, so Manjit should have introduced himself earlier. I've done 12 startups, did my first one at 19. I was head of Access Innovation Labs business a while ago, so I've kind of done this a few times, so I should be able to help share some insights. But if you're ready,
very good.
To your presentation?
Yes.
Up to you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so hello again from my side. My name is Philip Nag. I'm the CEO of Inca. And just a quick note, fantastic presentation by Zina early on. Maybe just a quick look behind the scenes. We European InsurTechs kind of see each other at different events, and it's nice to see how everyone's progressing as well. So that's just on a little side note. Maybe just as a quick means of introduction, over my last 7 to 8 years in insurance, I mostly build claims software with AI for insurance companies. And I don't do that anymore. And that is for a good reason, because as some of you might be able to relate, the moment you build AI pieces of software, especially for process-heavy activities such as claims, they usually work well in a very contained environment, maybe a pilot group. But the moment you try to scale, you lose a lot of that effect. And that is either due to legacy IT, which might make scaling difficult from a technological standpoint, but that is also, to a large extent, the way that you have to change your organization and change behaviors with some of your claims workers, where a lot of the potential is lost. And from those learnings that I had from my previous employer, we decided, together with a few colleagues of mine, to build Inca. And Inca is a claims service provider, in some markets also known as TPA. But as you might have guessed it, you don't really get very far without having agentic AI as part of your process. And that gives us a number of advantages that I'm happy to share with you today. So, as I said, we're based in Berlin, Germany. We're an AI claims handler. And our philosophy really is different compared to being a pure software provider. Our team is about 25 folks. 2/3 of these folks are AI engineers. And 1/3 is claims workers that used to work for insurance companies and now have joined Inca to bring in their expertise and all of their knowledge. Now, this unlocks a number of advantages for us. So, for instance, we're able to build very quickly on our agentic AI platform. Because that platform only sits internally with us, we have a lot of control over the speed of development, which we pass along to our customers. And finally, a key point is all of the claims workers that we have, basically our expert layer in the process, really is used for only one of two things. One is any edge cases that we encounter during the claims process, or any points where the AI might be unsure or have low confidence in a result. And all of that is used as a training moment, so for reinforcement learning in the platform, something that you wouldn't be able to do if you had this as a piece of software running with the claims organization of an insurance company. So that's the behind-the-scenes look. We offer 2 claims services for our insurance customers. One is end-to-end handling of claims. We do that most strongly in motor, personal liability, pet. We're opening property right now. And we also have an AI loss ratio optimization service, which is not handling the entire claim, but offering a second opinion on the claim to cut down on any indemnity that we witness in the claim. Double-clicking for a short moment on that first bit on end-to-end handling, I'm not going to explain to you how a claims process works. What I will say is that we use AI most strongly for the triaging of claims, for next best action detection, and for fraud detection, for instance. We're going to get back to that in just a second. But that's not what I'm selling. What we're really selling is what we agree contractually with our insurance customers in terms of SLAs. And these SLAs are on combined ratio improvement. So we have demonstrated these are figures for the motor branch that we can improve the combined ratio by about 2 to 4%, and that we fulfill every next step in the claim within an absolute maximum of 24 hours. And these are commitments that we make, contractual commitments, and not bloated AI expectations in a piece of software that you would have to then integrate by yourself. On the second piece, and I have a very nice example for you in a second, we do loss ratio optimization. So this is more of a review service. This is an insurance company handling the claim, and before paying out the claim, we offer case enrichment. We offer a validation of the claim with a number of AI agents, and then also optimize our results for that potential to be realized as well. And I'll show you an example, because that's always a lot more fun than seeing it in theory. So the input that we get from an insurer, and some of the text is German, but I will voice it over for you, is usually a claims file. So in this case, we have a Kia EV6, which they had tried to park, or rather tried to launch back onto the road again, and we have a couple of scratches on the right side of the car. Now, what was already interesting was that this was not a very local damage. Usually, if you scratch something, you kind of stop. So here we had, across the right flank, we had a number of scratches. But irrespective, we get the claims file, which usually consists of a number of pictures of the claim. It consists of text, so any the FNOL, for instance, and it also contains PDF files around the claim. This could be invoices, this could be any expert opinions. And what you're seeing running in the background right now is around 140 AI agent-based checks that just look for inconsistencies. And one of our claims workers is then served for the cases where these inconsistencies are found with all of the inconsistencies. And in this case, the AI detected or estimates a savings potential of around 8.5K on these scratches on the right flank. It is then the job of our claims workers, the people that have 10 to 15 years of experience working, in this case, car claims, to make a judgment call. Training data doesn't really exist on this. This really sits in the heads of these insurance workers to make a decision on, hey, have I seen this before, or have I not seen this before, and could this potentially be fishy? Now, what we sell back to the insurance company, though, is not what happens on our inside, but it's very mundane. It's a PDF. Yeah? This is a file which is basically an assessment of the savings potential that we have made, which we then provide back to the insurer, and that we have designed in a way that it can be added to a case file at no problem. So here, for instance, we have found, in this case, that there are rust marks that the AI image detection found, and this really is based on a comparison of the entire claims file. So this is comparing the FNOL, the text file, with structured claims data, which is the date of the claim, for instance, with any pictures and anything that doesn't really fit with it, which in this case is rust on a 5-day-old claim, which just can't be the case. So in this case, for the insurance company that I'm talking about right now, we saved them, in this case it was around 3.4 points in the combined ratio. And this is just an example for car. We do this in other business lines as well, along with our end-to-end handling, which doesn't just focus on table stakes, handling the claim in a quicker fashion, but it's really based around extracting some of that loss ratio potential and cutting down on the indemnity that I think we all still see in this industry. So summarizing maybe, what I pitched here today was not a piece of software. This was a service. We are a service provider that internally use agentic AI that have selected and trained claims workers for their expertise and for the right collaboration with AI. And this is an incredibly powerful powerhouse that we offer, the results of which to our insurance customers in Germany and now also in Europe. So thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to your questions.
Excellent and perfectly timed. Very impressive. Judges.
Yeah, thank you very much, Philip. Really impressive. So I get that you are a service company, you said at the end, no? And I have a couple of questions for you. One is whether you're planning also to grow licensing your tech and what you're building in-house to other TPAs, or you want to stick as a service and growing yourself as a TPA. Are you considering also inorganic growth, so acquiring non-techy TPAs maybe, let's say, no, and bring your technology to make them more efficient? Yeah. And the other angle of the question is how you plan to compete, right, in the market today, no? So and compete, I mean probably two blocks, no? The other TPAs who are adopting AI, and we have other solutions that we'll be presenting later, no, that are automating or giving them ways, no, agentic AI to automate, and other companies that are also trying to build AI native TPAs. No?
Yeah, 100%. So maybe to your first question, when we think about expanding Inca, in Germany where we started was completely organic growth, but as we're now moving to Europe, we are also considering anorganic growth, because, of course, as you might know, a lot of the partnerships that are held between insurance companies and their TPAs are very relationship-driven. There's a lot of claims expertise in-house with some of these TPAs, so that is a relevant asset that would make sense to potentially acquire. At the same time, it comes with, if I may say, some debt, of course, also in the processes of these TPAs. And that leads me well to the second question that you raised. I think that TPAs, they are adopting automation and AI, I think, at a slightly higher rate compared to the average legacy insurer would probably do. But we fundamentally believe that in order to really extract the benefits of some of these agentic workflows, you really need to redesign your entire process. This is not about having a sidebar with a chatbot where I can ask questions about my claim. This is about having the AI have a first stab, and then really every claims worker doesn't just help the process along the way. He's really a manager of different agents, and that's a completely different competence profile. So I think similarly to how some of the insurers are currently struggling within their claims departments within adopting AI from an organizational and process perspective, I think the same problems are currently being felt by TPAs. Yeah.
Thank you. And actually, Lluís, you stole my second question was actually the one I had in mind. I have another question. So how much is the fraud detection is part of Inca's solution? Like, because with AI, everyone could basically do any damage now. Yeah. How much fraud detection is part of the Inca solution? And how much you are able to discover, and I'm sure there is still room to improvement, but how much you could get now, like what's the percentage of fraud is actually a real fraud? And then the second question is, when you will be scaling to other regions, UK, Europe, they might have local regulatory requirements, right? Like, for example, for US, it depends on state. How are you planning to scale and adopt it to these local regulatory requirements?
Yeah, 100%. So maybe to your first question on the extent of our fraud detection. So fraud detection is the core of Inca's offering, and it's always part of either the loss ratio optimization or the end-to-end handling. And this is also something, if I may criticize maybe the industry a little bit as well, because we've seen AI mostly be used synonymously with the concept of keeping very high automation rates, but at least in the German market, we've also witnessed that this has come at the expense of the quality of the claims handling, and then by essence also the loss ratio. So it was a key priority for us, especially, I mean, Germany is a very car-heavy country, as you know, and that also extends to insurance. So we started, one of our core offerings was on fraud detection within car, and what we detect is usually between 2 to 4% of the combined ratio, and a large share of that is due to fraud, and for example, this Rust example, which is a fraudulent claim. And when it comes to adopting to other regulations in the European market, for instance, we have found that because so we have the compliance in place with DORA EU AI Act, and I'm not going to bore you for the continental European countries. We are currently forming a pathway to the UK, where the selection is a bit different. We have one advantage of software players is that we are not necessarily always classified as an ICT provider, because we really only use software on the inside and not critical infrastructure that we provide to the insurer. This is a way that some of our customers are taking a bit of a shortcut when it comes to the regulatory process. Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Marnix van Deursen. I'm commercially responsible at MarvelX. It's a Dutch-based AI company. I mean, it's AI for, after, and also during this presentation. And I quickly want to tell you a bit about a different approach, agentic AI in claims, but then more from the perspective of the insurer, the MGA, and the TPA, where we usually partner up with. It's a bit of a different approach than Philip just told you about. And not sure if how I can switch the, oh, here. Yeah. I think in AI, I mean, AI is everywhere, let's be honest. I mean, it's in your head, it's in PowerPoints, it's here on the floor, it's in many presentations. But to be very honest, you see that most initiatives really stall before they go into production. So if you look at, I just put some random articles here on stage. But if you see, for example, had a third article about 74% of all the insurance employees with AI access never saw any changes yet. And I think that's very interesting, right? Because it's a hype, it's a myth still. But if you look around you, especially in the insurance industry, people are still using Copilot and nobody really sees any tangible impact around them. And that's maybe also not a surprise, right? Because of course there's a lot of hype around claims and AI in claims because there's a lot of things possible, right? Even me, myself, don't have a technical background. I can use Claude and handle claims or handle the process to a certain extent. But claims are not that easy, right? So you manage a lot of like unstructured data, like big volumes. The logic is not always captured in the terms and conditions, right? It's not always black and white. Handlers, experts, loss adjusters, they all use their own expertise, which is not always mapped. And you always have the internal housing guidelines, which are inconsistently used for every single claim. Of course, there's deep experience needed. If you look at medical, if you look at property, if you look at specialty, I mean, there's always experts already working 25 years in the field, and that's for a certain reason. Soft skills are important in terms of communication, because NPS scores, empathy, the tone of voice are extremely important because a claim is one of the few occasions that you interact with a customer, so it's really important to get that right. Legacy systems, of course, big problem, fragmented systems, and data accessibility, and the traceability requirements around claims. How do you come to decisions? Who made them? System, human, agents, and you want to track that at any time. So for that reason, you see a lot of like initiatives, but it's usually more centered around the front, in the intake, the first notice was lost maybe. But further down the road, around decision making, you see, rarely any changes yet. And one of the main reasons for this is about accuracy. And you see that if you're using general LLMs like me, my mother, everyone using them these days, and you put some general rec around it, you get like okay-ish answers. But are okay-ish answers good enough to rely on? Good enough to rely on in an environment where trust and your reputation are so important? You see that on average, when we check this on lots of historical data from big carriers, we see that, for example, motor claims in 8% of the cases, people make mistakes. So eventually to rely on AI and to distinguish between all these AI companies around here, it's really important to look at the accuracy eventually, because in the end, you need to become more accurate than the human expert to rely on the decisions made by AI, potentially with a person in the loop. And that really allows for automation. You've seen it with cloud code. Everyone thought, hey, this is super nice. But all of a sudden, an incremental change in accuracy changed everything, and now every developer is using it. So this incremental change, that is where we launched our company for. We have a team, unfortunately our founder couldn't be here because he's traveling for his marriage. But we have people with a few PhD in reinforcement learning. They also scaled a challenger bank to more than 20 million people. So they did everything in customer communications, KYB, transaction monitoring, and they were approached by EQT and Plug and Play Ventures to start for themselves, raised about 7 million pre-seed 30 months ago. And here we are 30 months later. We already signed a few TPAs, US, Europe, MGAs, even risk carriers. We just went live with a big group of, basically consolidated group of risk carriers and MGAs in one of the biggest insurance companies in the Netherlands, doing all kinds of lines. So, the world of AI is fast, and shipping can go way faster than it used to before. I think the real secret sauce is in the application of reinforcement learning combined with our in-house built models. So we're using the frontier models, we're using the models of our customers, but we also have our smaller quantized insurance-specific model, about 10 billion parameters, and we basically build this in the cloud, in the environment of our customers, and we can even work on-prem for this. On top of that, we are hiring freelancers to train our own models and make our models better. But what they're especially good at is capturing the information from the claims adjusters, the claim handlers, the claim experts from our customers. So we gather feedback of their best people, we gather this feedback and we optimize the models, we fine-tune, we harden the models further, and we launch a new version just to improve these last few percent, going from an average performance where we started after 100, maybe 200 iterations, even on the most complex files, you can see that the agents already perform way better than their senior experts. And in this way, we try to facilitate them in decision making or optimize for STP, for example, on the more simpler claims like travel, bike, or motor. How we usually work, we try to empower the claim specialists to think about more complex medical files, commercial property. There's like long evolving files, and we try to optimize the work and take away all the desk work or the repetitive work, all the work behind the computer for the people by providing agents around intake, reasoning, of course, and the closure of the claim. So we have, so just how it works is we have always a bunch of agents, customer support, data extraction, triage, assessment, routing, reporting, bordereau. That's like a generic flow. And these are most of the lines we currently have live. We are completely line agnostic. It doesn't really matter. We can apply the system on every single claim. We do long-term care, which is a 30-year-old file with very complex medical information with a TPA in the US for MetLife. But we're also doing motor claims for a big insurance company in Nettle, travel, you name it, life in Japan. So all kinds of files we can basically master with the system behind it. Very quickly, what do you achieve with this? One thing is, of course, capturing all the information of the senior people, right? You see a lot of a shortage in numbers of people. There's a tsunami of people who are going to retire. So you try to capture that information into our models. So this, for example, is for motor. You see that the decision accuracy of an agent is about 3 to 4% higher than of a human, which allows for a lot of automation, of course. Throughput, cycle time, I think if you can automate about 95% of the work behind the computer, I think that's a logical thing. And the cost per claim, I mean, it's very different, but you go from 50, let's say a motor claim between 30, 50, 80 euros per claim, depending on your business and the complexity, but you go to a few euros. So that's most of the no-brainer. But I think the biggest win is in the leakage, right? So making the agents more accurate than the human, more consistency, you prevent a lot of leakage in a thin margin industry like insurance. Thank you very much for your time. You can find...
Thank you very much. I had a very quick question before I hand over to you guys. So obviously it's a very busy, crowded space.
Yes.
There's lots of people talking about AI-based claim solutions. So in the UK, we have a really big problem with exaggerated claims. So people adding on extra things when something gets stolen. So how does AI help you identify those exaggerations? So it's a genuine claim, but half of the things that got stolen never actually got stolen.
Yeah, you mean so if files are added to the dossier, or what is the So that's for example long-term care. That's for TPA we do in the US. I think it's one of our biggest customers. And long-term care files can take decennia, right? Like a very long time. So it's constantly updated, like a medical doctor, constantly updating and improving. So there's a lot of rework done. There's a lot of navigation, summarizing, diving into the claim again. I think for that purpose, it's especially really helpful. That's not really an answer to your question, but we basically add the files to an evolving file. But it can be commercial property as well, for example, which can take 2-3 years. So it's especially to optimize these people. They're expensive people, knowledgeable people, and 90% of their work is basically navigating and repetitive work, so you can judge instead of type.
Cool. Okay, thank you. I'll pass you on to the real judges to ask questions.
Thank you. And I remember at Plug and Play, at one of the events, I saw Ali was presenting. It was like many years ago, and
Vegas,
he was like,
maybe, yeah. It cannot be many years ago because we started 13 months ago.
Yeah, but I think it was maybe 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and so for me, one of my questions was, what is the current accuracy? You mentioned that it's improving, but what is the current accuracy? I guess the target is 100%, but I'm sure there is still room for improvement. So what is the current accuracy? And what is the uniqueness of this solution in comparison with some of the other? Because there are many solutions right now, and it's actually difficult to find which one is unique. So what is the unique selling point of this?
Yeah. From what I see, at least, and I just started a few months ago in insurance, but from what I've seen, there's a lot of like people, like companies before the agentic AI age, of course, who try to transform. And you see, especially see a lot of solutions around intake, first notice of loss, but actually further down the road in like actually assessing also the complex claims and making, basically doing the whole process, and end to end is a bit of like a buzzword, but doing the whole process from intake to settlement, I think that is quite unique. I haven't seen that so far, especially on the more complex cases. And if you speak about accuracy, I mean, it's evolving, right? So we only start when the trust is high enough and it meets the criteria of our customers, which is usually around 95% accuracy, just beyond the humans. But we see that's improving. The more feedback, the more extensive feedback, the better feedback. And it's not from the machine learning time that you need thousands and thousands of feedback points. I mean, a few hundred feedback points is really super valuable, and we see that we go to the 98, 99% already pretty quickly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was checking your website before, and I saw that you claim that a key part when you start to work with customers, the first thing you do is analyze the flows and processes. No? Analyze the flows, processes, and then suggest how better work with them, automate, and how to use your technology. My question is, how much consulting is there in what you bring, right? I mean, and whether the value you bring, what's your opinion, right? It's more based on the expertise and understanding the process and what the customers need, or it's more based on your technology and this retrofitting algorithm that you are mentioning?
Yeah, you mean the decision making, the fraud specifically?
No, I mean where do you think the value of the company lies more, right? I mean, it's more in the expertise that you have on understanding what the customers need and understanding the flows, the processes, and coming with a proposal on how to use your technology to automate, or it's rather more in the technology itself?
Yeah, I think it's more in the technology and the system, because so we have these our own in-house built models. Also for the data extraction, we have a vision model. We have this quantized, more purpose-built insurance model. But eventually it needs to come from every insurance company is different, every line of business is different, every person is different. So it's especially about capturing and do that very well, because that goes beyond just adding prompts and changing the rec. So that I think that is really where the secret sauce is. And because otherwise you will not be able to maintain a certain level of accuracy over time, right? At some point it will probably break in terms of volume, scalability. I think that's exactly where we try to make a difference. It's always difficult to explain that. Please come to our booth. I can show you a demo. We try to visualize it a bit. It's also a bit difficult to explain because it's under the hood. You need to experience it. But we invite everyone to test it with us, and we will show you how fast it can learn.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that.
I'm Jack Miller, the CEO and co-founder of Nettle. We're a company based out of London, and I'll take you out of the claims domain for a little bit. We operate in a very specific part of the value chain in commercial insurance. So we're helping large commercial carriers and brokers do much more efficient physical inspections as part of the underwriting process, sometimes called risk engineering in Europe, risk control or loss control in the US. And it's a really significant problem, actually, in commercial lines. So if you are a large commercial carrier, the likes of Allianz, typically 10 to 20% of the submissions that arrive on your desk each year are large in terms of kind of value or sufficiently complex in terms of the type of risk that you actually have to send someone to go visit these sites. So you have an internal field force for this. The problem is this is an often overlooked part of insurance. And as soon as you get that submission on your desk, it takes anywhere up to a month for you to actually get that report and the recommendations for the underwriters back into the decision-making process. And obviously that friction leads to a number of problems. So the first is that an extremely long backlog starts to mature inside these organizations. We see anywhere up to about 6 months. About $26 billion a year is spent across the industry in terms of headcount and tooling to try and solve this problem. But it's also getting worse. So like many parts of insurance, particularly in commercial lines, we have what we've heard of as a silver tsunami of expertise loss. Nowhere is that more serious than in risk engineering, where typically insurance organizations have hired in experts who've already had long careers inside of factories or oil rigs and are already approaching that retirement age. So this backlog is getting longer, this bottleneck is getting worse. And maybe just taking a step out of this for a moment, my background prior to this was at McKinsey. I led a lot of the insurance AI work we did in personal lines. And I think the really striking thing as soon as you switch from personal lines to commercial lines is the vast drop-off in speed of underwriting. So what we've tried to do with Nettle is bring commercial underwriting and risk assessment back in line with that speed that you see in personal lines. And this friction at the moment, when you look at these large commercial carriers, given the complexity, the size of the premiums, and also the margins of these types of risks, it's actually a huge revenue problem. So Allianz, for example, have the appetite and the capacity to underwrite a lot of these large commercial risks, but because of that manual risk inspection process and how slow that is, they end up leaking a potential $380 million a year in revenue. It doesn't have to be this way. Obviously, there's AI involved, but that's not everything. So what we do with Nettle is we take risk engineering teams and risk control experts on this journey from the moment they prepare for a visit. Nettle takes the data from their policy center, enriches it within about 90 seconds with any information it can find online, pull from NatCat sources, compare against industry standards, and highlight the types of processes and risks that are emerging outside in at this site. It will then take all of the evidence that has been received from the broker or agency submission, images, spreadsheets, documents, you name it, and it will break all of this up into structured data. You can then go on site if you still need to and capture via our mobile or tablet app. Images, audio notes is quite a popular one. So a lot of the risk engineers used to use dictaphones. They've kind of done away with that because it actually added quite a lot of inefficiency down the line. And we're quite retro in bringing that back. So they'll be walking around the site, they'll be talking about what they see. And by the time they finish their site visit, the 1,000 or so structured data points that have been gathered up to that point allows them to have a finished risk report, risk score, set of loss scenarios and recommendations ready for the client. So same-day underwriting and decision-making for large commercial risks, which was completely unfathomable before. So let's have a quick look at how this happens. Oh. There we go. And as with everyone else, we've got a booth downstairs, so happy to kind of show you this on live cases. But you can start a risk inspection completely outside in. You don't even need to have this kind of integrated with any tools up front. You just fill in at least company name and address. And what Nettle will do is it will kick off a set of predefined agentic actions. Again, for different carriers we work with, they might add their own actions on top of that for different data sources, for example. And yeah, within about 90 seconds, you'll get something like this where it's saying, okay, this is the company that you're about to look at. Here's quite a nuanced description of what they actually do. In this case, they manufacture the machinery for textiles. We've extracted data from map providers. We've classified the industry. We've compared it against relevant standards for the industry and maybe your own guidelines internally to flag potential processes and risks. An important step for new risk engineers entering this market to help coach them. And from this point, you can fire in any evidence that you have. So this can be done on desktop, it can be done on mobile, and Nettle will very quickly take all of these pieces of evidence, tag them, which is an important step, so that it's starting to look at exactly what you care about as an organization rather than what Nettle thinks you care about. And then break that up into structured observations about the site. Similar with the audio note example that I mentioned, this works in 35 different languages, both the UI and the actual evidence analysis. It'll be breaking that up into observations as you walk around and feeding that back into this really rich data set for every site. You can gather more evidence on the app, as I mentioned. And just for kind of while this is playing in the background, for context, we do this across many, many different commercial lines, right? Even potentially applicable to for some personal lines, like high net worth homes where previously you would have had an inspection. But we do it in property, liability, energy, marine, construction, anywhere where you need to have kind of boots on the ground and a bridge into the physical world, if you like. So now I've got that structured data set. I can do this on a per site basis, ask questions. I can also do this on my portfolio to make better decisions about what I want to underwrite in the future and to audit what I've already underwritten. And then the most important step, and this can be triggered while I'm still on site on my mobile, Nettle can use all of that information to fill in any structure of a survey. So the carriers we work with might have 20 pre-configured survey templates inside of their version of Nettle. Nettle can take the same block of data and fill in any of them for a given site. And it takes about 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes to do this for a very long survey. We just completed a project with travelers. Theirs is 200 to 250 and it's still within that kind of 2-minute range, which means you can do it while you're still on the site. And finally, you can review this. So you'll see here it's finished about 93% of the survey. Maybe you haven't gathered enough evidence to fully answer this. You can see the decision making, you can see the risk score. I can finalize it if I'd like, and then produce a report either for the underwriter or for the client in my format that is ready to go. So very quickly, I'll wrap up what this means. I like to describe this business and this workflow as a bit of a sandwich, right? So you've got 2 bits of bread, the preparation and the report writing, but what you really care about is time on site in the middle. With Nettle, we try and shrink down the bread so you can have more sandwiches. And for organizations, especially carriers, this is a huge benefit to top line because you can visit more sites, you can sustainably grow your revenue in commercial lines, but you're also getting more detailed understanding of those sites so you can reduce claims losses, which are obviously very significant on these types of sites. And final slide for me. So I mentioned Allianz, what we see with them. So they're live in production, 3 times faster assessments of their complex property risks. They're able to kind of strike this balance of having 90% accuracy of the answers that the AI is filling for their risk surveys while filling about 2/3 of the survey. And as they kind of get more kind of used to the types of evidence that you feed in, that will only increase. Perfect. You can find us downstairs. Feel free to scan and see a bit more information about what we do. But thank you very much.
Thanks, Jack. You go first.
Thank you, Jack. Great presentation. Sorry, maybe I missed it because it was very small there. I couldn't read some of the parts. But do you bring third-party data? I think you mentioned that in your presentation. Which kind of third-party data would you say that is unique data that you bring into the process?
Yeah, so the way that Nettle is set up is out of the box. So you could start using this tomorrow and it would be helpful, particularly on like large commercial property risks. And that is because we come preloaded with either data sources that Nettle will go and pull from or things that are already indexed inside the platform. And an example of the latter is FM Global datasheets. They produce about 260 open source industry guidelines for large commercial risks each year. All of those are kept up to date inside the platform. So if I upload an image of a sprinkler system, it'll be telling me whether that's compliant or not with like industry standards. But that knowledge bank is a living brain for every organization. So the carriers we work with and the brokers will keep that up to date with their own guidelines as well on top, or maybe regional standards too. And on the former bit where we're pulling from information from third party or from open sources, we've built lots of integrations with different map providers. So we extract a lot of that map data. And we also partner with other NatCat players, 7 Analytics that you've heard from, and a few others. So you can start to trial their data inside the platform for your risk engineering process without having to worry about integrations.
Quick follow-up question. I mean, if you bring all this data, have you seen already with your customers an improving the technical result?
Yeah, I mean, the big one that everyone cares about is the efficiency gain, right? So we've proven that you can 3 to 5x the end-to-end inspection timeline. Which obviously, as I mentioned, has a big impact on revenue. The one that's maybe a bit of a longer tail indicator is, are you also able to spot things you've never seen before? So the risk engineers that we work with are qualitatively saying, yes, this has helped me spot 3 to 4 different things that I would never have seen on this site because I'm not looking at 100 images in the level of detail that Nettle is. And examples might be construction materials. I might make a kind of general sweeping understanding of concrete construction at this site, but Nettle points out that actually maybe about 20% of the site uses an insulation panel that could be very flammable. Small kind of, someone described it to travelers as having a second or third pair of eyes on every inspection. I think over time we'll prove that that has a very quantitative impact on loss reduction as well.
Thank you. I have a slightly different question. Firstly, how big do you think the market potential of this solution is, like the market size? Because what you're building is very niche. And who do you see as a competitor? Of course, the old way of doing it, they could just continue sending the inspection and it will be too slow. Otherwise, they should, everybody understand that apart from efficiency, I'm sure there is also a cost saving in the using the Nettle. So who do you see as a potential competitors? So the market size and the competitors.
Yeah, great question. So on the market size, like a lot of things in insurance may seem niche from the outset, but when you're dealing with the most complex, largest risks, it's actually very significant. So I mentioned 26 billion. That's a combination of workforce spend and also software spend on what is visited today. Now, with Nettle, essentially what we do is reduce the amount of workforce spend that is required to visit those sites, so more people can do more visits, and we shift a lot of that to software. But we bring down the spend per inspection by about 10x. Now, what that means is you're no longer capacity constrained to visit all of these sites. You can actually get eyes on more of your portfolio. And because you're also codifying a lot of the understanding of risk for your organization in a platform, the carriers we work with today, the natural extension that they now want to do is put this mobile device in the hands of their agency network or their clients. And then you go from 10 to 20% coverage of your portfolio to almost 90, 100% without having any friction in the process. So that extends the market from 26 billion anywhere up to 40 billion.
Thank you.
And competitors was the other one. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned at the start, it's an often overlooked space. I think we see a couple of levels of maturity now. The first is you rely on your experts wholly and you give them a Word template and you trust their opinions when it comes back. I think that doesn't help you capture structured data, which makes it very difficult to extend this to your client base or your agency network, or even inform underwriting on a detailed level. The second wave was a couple of survey tools. So there's a few products out there in the market from large players like Majesco and Duck Creek, which take away some of the kind of experience of those risk engineers and force them to fill out huge long surveys. which is not great for the client experience. It also doesn't help the efficiency, but it does give you structured data. And this third wave, which I think we're pretty unique in at the minute, actually, is the best of both. Efficiency gains, structured data, better experience for the risk engineers, and better experience for the clients as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank
Super.
you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you, ITC. Great set of presentations so far. I am coming from a New York-based AI startup, and I have to say, after being in 10 conferences back-to-back in Vegas, this is a breath of fresh air. Barcelona is a great location to be in. And I'm Vishal Rohra, the co-founder and CEO of KayAI. In my past life, I've worked in AI at Microsoft Research and Twitter, and I today build AI agents for insurance operations, especially the back office of the commercial brokerages. I'll start with the problem here. I think I've been in this space 16 months. A lot of people here have been here for decades. This is not news to you. Insurance back office is overwhelmed. A lot of brokerages that we talk to, there's 2 account managers for every producer that we talk with. A lot of these processes, especially the ones in the middle, when we work with brokerages on servicing certificates, processing renewals, policy checking, a lot of that work today is keying data from one place to another, doing the same repetitive task. And for the past few decades of technology trying to solve for it, we have not much to show for it. I think overall what we found is there were 2 types of reasons this exists still today. One, nuances. Every regulation, every state difference, every country different in Europe has their own nuances for the same certificate process that we talk about. But second, it's also about incentives. A lot of the providers, a lot of carrier portals to agency management systems or core systems we talk to, they have a lot of incentive to keep data locked in. They have incentive to not talk to each other. And then that forces our industry to essentially choose one of these 2 options in front of you. One, a lot of carriers and wholesalers as well try to offshore that work or have nearshore teams. And while it definitely increases revenue per employee because things are cheaper, we found that there were senior account managers who were spending 2x the amount of time training and managing offshore teams. And every single time somebody started working with us was when they found out there was a human error from an offshore team, and that led to an E&O risk or an audit that the team had to go through. The other side is software. And there's been a lot of platform improvements, point solutions that have been built over different types of categories. But when we look at those point solutions, every single one of them we found was backed by integration issues. Always spending and reaching 70 to 80% of the way there. But when you're not able to do the work, the end-to-end work for a given solution, then we found, and I'm guessing you might have also noticed with a lot of Copilot solutions recently, there's very minimal adoption. There's 100 seats that you have bought, but there's 4 people who are actually using it. And that happens because there's portal fatigue. There's 10 different point solutions to go to, and habits don't change at the speed of AI. When we look at those 2 solutions, we have essentially been obsessed with the question of, can we build an AI coworker that truly feels like a coworker without any portal, without any website, which feels like learning with you, growing with you, working with any system that you work with, but truly scales like software. And that's what we believe is a K agent, an AI coworker that does the work in your specific way, capturing your nuances. And the key part there is end-to-end, which is any type of process that you throw at me, K is able to build out a full automation within 7 days working in those systems. And this is a very simple example of it, which is renewals, where brokerages basically point us to saying, hey, I have a renewal book. Every day I'm getting renewal downloads of new policies that I have to work through. And then K is able to go into your CRM, pick up the renewal download, compare that renewal download with the older policy, find out what are the different coverage gaps available, whether it has to reshop from multiple carriers, and if it has to, it's going to go into multiple carrier portals and get those quotes back. So when you are picking up that task, it's not happening at the stage where a document came in. It's happening at the stage where you are directly looking at a renewal review where you can decide what you want to do with that account. So this is how it works. It works in 3 simple steps. First, bring your statement of procedures. We essentially are looking at a lot of institutional knowledge that you might have documented, might not have documented, and convert them into what we call an agent operating procedure. The magic here is that agent operating procedure is just a simple document that looks very much similar to an SOP. Over there, you can write down, hey, I want you to log into my AMS system. I want you to monitor my inbox. And you can write it in very natural language steps. And that's our ground truth for the agent. And then Kay does the work. So for a certificate request like this, we'll be monitoring your inbox and then figure out what type of certificate request is it. Find the account in your agency management system. Read the existing policies, read the templates that are available, and then fill out the holder details, create the document within your core system, and then finally bring that back to you for you to either send it out to the client, or if you feel more comfortable, send it out directly from the agent itself. That's what doing the work end-to-end looks like. Over here, keep in mind there's no integration set up to do, no API required. I am a coworker, so Kay is going to just require an email login, a seat, and it'll get to work. And then finally, what does it mean to be a coworker? A coworker is not just reading a document and then doing things to the dot. A coworker is someone who challenges you. A coworker is someone who looks at new things and says, oh, I observed something new. Should we change the agent operating procedure? That's, I think, the key unlock from a lot of bots you might have seen from robotic process automations, which would break down when the website changes, when your process changes, you're calling in an engineer to try and fix it. Kay instead actually comes to you, pauses, and says, hey, I've run into an interesting issue. How do you want me to solve this? It's coming to you in your email, in your inbox to get that answer, and then updating that institutional knowledge and creating a transparent view of how things work. Today, we are live with a lot of top 100 brokerages in US. I'm here actually to learn more about the European markets, and thank you so much for spending time with me. We have saved about 15,000 hours in a lot of repetitive, busy work behind the scenes. We take 7 days to go live, as opposed to months or years of RPA project investments. And every single time, we aim to save at least 50% of your in-house spend on that process. So ROI from day one, when we are able to do the process end-to-end, is guaranteed. These are some of our customer quotes. I think the one that I like the most is being able to drive value within weeks, as opposed to taking months to train a team, and then being able to getting surprised when Kay is handling complex scenarios. That sometimes surprises me, where Kay handles a scenario and I'm like, I had not even thought of that. There are times where the agent operating procedure becomes 3x as much, and I don't no longer know the SOP, but it's doing the job, and that makes us really happy. That's Kay, and we are here to create your operation teams with a fleet of agents, and we are in the booth down below. Please reach out.
Thank you, Vishal. Sokhiba, you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you, and I would love to speak afterwards, actually. I have a couple of questions. So firstly, did you already applied or received your SOC 2 regulatory approval? Like how far you guys are in the process?
Yeah, our first client required it, so we went through SOC 2, cyber insurance, and all the details required.
Okay, and the second question is, what is the most popular use case for this? Like, I understand there are several workflows and brokerages, but what is like most popular people are using this for?
Because we are focused on US brokerages, the most common are renewals, certificates, and policy checks. And any type of core system hygiene. So every time you have to log into your Guidewire or AMS and make sure your data is up to date, which nobody wants to do because it's context switching. Those are our most common use cases. The way people think about us primarily is they currently have outsourcing spend already. And then they go through that list and say, hey, I have 10 people working through this specific task that is repetitive. I want to see if an AI coworker can do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, could you expand a bit more on the implementation phase? That you mentioned that it was 7 days. I mean, what's your role there? How the customer interacts during those days? Is there a training and you have to program something or prepare the solution before implementing it into your customers?
Yes. So implementation happens in two ways. One is we are trying to understand what is the process am I implementing. So you might already have a statement of procedure. Before I start implementing, I do a handshake with you in converting that SOP into an AOP. The AOP is very much like an SOP. You can read it and say, hey, this looks good. After we have that, we know that AOP is not going to be perfect. No operating procedure is perfect. We still start with that starting point. Within 7 days, no matter how many websites I'm going through, I'm going to show you K live working on that task end to end, and you can throw like 10, 20 different examples at it. And then the second part of essentially building trust with a coworker begins, where every run you do, just like you hire someone new, you're going to monitor that task and say, hey, I want you to do something a little differently, or approve it. What we ask from you is the first 50 to 100 runs of that task. We'll make it very easy for you to review, but in natural language, give it feedback saying, next time I want you to do this. And then it'll update the AOP and show you those are the updates, and that may differ company to company. Someone might spend 1 week and run through all those 100 runs of feedback. Someone might take 3 weeks, 4 weeks to actually give that feedback.
Okay, and how does what do you think the secret sauce of the differentiation comes? I mean, when we compare, for example, no, I mean the case of using Claude maybe in a small organization, but at least that's where I see it in some startups that we have in the portfolio. In our case at Mundi Ventus ourselves, right? I mean that when you already know your business, you already know how the day-to-day tasks and work. We have done in the last months amazing tools and amazing stuff with just with Claude, right? I mean, and to automate our own processes. What do you think you bring the unique value?
I think one, as an engineer, I know the last 20% is all the work. Maintaining and making things reliable is where people spend money on like a vertical AI software. So we spend a lot of time from getting 80% of the way there to actually being always consistent, always having the guardrails, not going out of bounds, like getting stuck up in like a specific screen. If you work through computer use agents with Claude today, they're a lot slower. They are a lot more expensive than how we work with like document tasks today. But I know that maybe 2-3 years later, that might be different. The second piece of this is we are able to compound our learnings on how we work through a process, how we look at these legacy portals and the documents that we are working through. And those creates repeatable skills that get cross-learned across the industry. So now when you are running through a certificate process, I can look at somebody else who ran through a certificate process and recommend you a better process, because a lot of times people don't have the best way to do it. And those compounding benefits that I can cross-learn across organizations help us.
Thank you.
Can I have one more question, because it's actually linked with what you just mentioned. Does it have ability to train the juniors, like based on that knowledge? Because I think it's one of the, the people were mentioning, the silver tsunami, and that there will be people retiring also in brokerages. But because you have this internal data and their systems, will it have an ability to train the youngers, like what's the best practices to respond and everything?
That's a great idea, and that's exactly in a lot of ways people think of this, is there are some retirements that are happening in their organization, so they want to capture, and almost this is a forcing function, because now you're training it to an AI that AOP has to be strong. Because that AOP is always transparent and that you can talk to this person, now a new person who's joining in can first read that AOP, which is a lot more richer, but second, ask it context across multiple different processes and learn from it. I mean, my goal, wishful thinking is a year from now, I want to see if I can give a license to an agent, like a regulated license to our agents, and that would enable us to do a lot more exciting things.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Vishal.
Thank you so much.
So first of all, thank you very much for ITC, the organization, to host us here, and congrats to all the startups that went through. Very interesting. So InfiniteWatch, just to set up as different, make us different from the rest of the guys that have been talking here, we're sitting in the front office, we're sitting in the customer interaction, right? In the moment of truth, we say. And we're deploying agents that will be running on that area. Right, so first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. Yeah, so Pablo Molina, CEO and founder of InfiniteWatch. Alberto González, he's with me here, and Iñaki Berenguer. We were the 3 original founders of Covered Wallet, and that was a startup that we ran in the US in 2015. It was an online broker, and we used to sell insurance for SMEs. We made it scale to run not just in the US, but also in Europe and in Australia. And what we learned there is how to do customer acquisition and customer servicing based on digital channel, right? Just to have a self-service solution where customers are autonomous on how to find and how to make interact with insurance, and in this case, us as a broker. We're bringing that to this era of AI. We recently, with Iñaki as well, the third founder, we were having conversations, hey, if we had to build Covered Wallet today with AI, how would we do that? No? And then out of those conversations, we just decided to move on and then launch InfiniteWatch, okay? So, yes, what we see, what we can tackle, and we suffer that first person, is the operations that we call that they are blind, right? We know that there are call centers out there where they have thousands, hundreds of thousands of calls, and there is a small team that is listening to 5% of those calls, which is a very small sample, to understand how things are behaving, how the agents are serving clients. Is this campaign named or not? What are the cancellation reasons for my product? No? So all that stuff with AI can be improved. The idea is to go and target the 100% of visibility, okay? The second one about customer experience, right? So a bunch of things that also we can do now with AI. So one is that, from the different channels, when there are many companies where they receive, an email message yesterday, and then today there was a phone call, and they are not doing a match. They cannot understand if that is the same client. With AI, what we're doing is that we have the whole thread, and we can personalize the message. Okay, so that's very important, and that's something that we built on top. And the last thing is we are on that layer of distribution. We want to target agentic commerce. We are a very strong believer that this is going to really hit the market, because what we see is that when it comes to insurance, there are more and more queries in ChatGPT or Claude around it that nowadays are informative, and they are going to become transactional. So those are the opportunities that we target, and now I want to show you what we built so far. So first of all, we are a multi-channel platform, so we are ingesting any interaction that comes through that layer, so whatever comes through Claude, ChatGPT, and our services, MCP services, whatever we get on voice, we are connected with the call center systems, so we are ingesting every audio, every transcription of every call. We receive all the messages on SMS and WhatsApp, email, of course, and we also track any interaction on the website. When there are brokers or insurers that have an online experience, we can track every interaction, including mouse moves, scrolls, everything that we get. Once we have all that, all that information is sitting on our platform, and then we start discovering opportunities. We start discovering issues. We start discovering who's the agent that's doing best in your call center. We start discovering what are those campaigns that are not named, as I said before. We start discovering opportunities to upsell that haven't been approached, okay? So we do that discovery, let's say bottom up, and we also allow businesses and companies to run their own queries using natural language and set up their own metrics, okay? So we are ingesting over time, and then with that, also we have that shared memory that we are able to learn from, okay? So I think that is very differential. And then by leveraging that platform and that layer, we build end-to-end workflows on top, okay? So first of all, the idea is that we have full visibility of how the operations are running. Now let's deploy AI. This is our thesis on how, and our recommendation on how AI should be deployed in businesses. You first want to have visibility of all operations, not just the data to be ready for, but also the visibility of operation. Then after, is when you deploy those agents on top. Then, some of those agents that we have in production today, collections. So we are working with a large insurer in the US, and we're running collections for them. We are calling, customers that are missing receipts in 3 days in a row. But since we also have this visibility layer, we are able to track and improve very fast connection rate, when is the best time to call who, and collected rate. Also, what is what kind of negotiation did best in the past to get whatever the missing payment was. Okay? So that is one that we have running. The second example that I want to share is renewals. So for renewals, what we do is that way before renewal is happening, and also looking at the historical data that we already got when we did the ingestion, we then enter on that renewal conversation with clients, and that is fully automated so that we can serve it without human interaction. Okay? The important bit here is that we also use that level of personalization to then recommend cross-sell or upsell for those customers that we are going to touch, so that we generate growth and we generate revenues as we speak. I think that the hardest bit with AI is to hit revenue and growth, like top line P&Ls. Efficiency plays are all over the place. No? So what we are offering here is also growth on the business. Okay? And the third bit that has been already commented a lot is claims. What we do with claims is that we do the first part of the intake. And since we are monitoring every different channel, we can get the information from a website, we can get the information through phone calls, and then also following up on emails. And we do document processing, and we post that into the different systems. Okay, so I think that what we're doing here is the intake bit, but multi-channel, which is where we see that many times that happens, that there is phone call starts, and then WhatsApp comes next. Okay? Cool. And then getting into this agentic commerce. So I think we were reading the other day that when people get to internet to buy a product, they still get to Amazon directly, or they go to Google and search for the things because they know for a fact what they want to try, what they want to buy, When they're looking for a service like taxes, like financial advisor, like mortgages, and including insurance, they need to learn, they want to learn first. In the past, you just called a friend that you know that work here and there, that can help you. Now, people trust on ChatGPT and Claude. And what we're helping companies is to be there, ready, and deploy their apps so that the app comes up when that interaction is taking place. Okay? So Claude just released this auto-discovery connectors solution, and then whenever somebody is looking for insurance, we can make your company be there so that you can transact directly from the AI assistant. There are guys like Google and other Stripe that are working on developing wallets that will be attached to those AI assistants, so that for tiny payments, these guys will be autonomous to do the next purchase for you. Okay? So insurance wants to be there, and we're helping companies to be there. Cool. That's us. So as a summary, what I want to say is that we want to be deploying those agents in that customer-facing piece. We want to be the same as we did with Cover Wallet, like self-serving, and autonomous processes for insured, and that's how we're building with AI. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Pablo.
Thank you.
So you have you want to tackle a lot of parts of the value chain. You mentioned collections, claims, renewals, customer success, distribution, and also even in your website you also have different industries.
That's right.
My question to you, there are two, no? One is more practical, so it's how you plan to go to market and the sales, and the second is more core, no? So how you plan to compete, or do you think that you can compete and build a competitive edge in all these use cases or value propositions?
Yeah, that's a good question, and we do it every day. So first of all, to be very honest, we come through insurance because we have good friends, we have a network, we know it pretty well, we know where the pain points are, and we can produce solutions that are very, very specific because we suffer that ourselves. And that is our advantage. That is also the advantage that when we interact, entertain the conversation with a prospect on insurance, we know pretty well what the pain points are, and we can do something very tailor-made, right? When it comes to technology mode, I mean, I don't think that anyone has technology mode anymore. But yes, I think that layer of observability and shared memory that we're building, it will compound, and then in the future, that will be a differentiator. Okay? Thank you.
Hi, Pablo. Does it, I understand what it does, but does it have ability to generate new leads? I think it will be, right? Because I think currently you could use their existing customer pipeline and possibly upscale the ticket to see whether they are covered. But does it have an ability, for example, now people buy, at least in America, they buy this list of customers who want insurance through various channels. But I think I agree with you that many people actually do now the Google search and ChatGPT search. Will it have an ability, possibly in the future, to generate this kind of leads?
Leads?
Yes. New leads.
But you mean through Claude and ChatGPT, or in general, or solutions? Sorry.
In general, from various channels, because now it's advertisement, like the TV, they have call centers, they try to get customers from various channels.
Yeah. So I think that, I'm not sure if it is new net leads, but what we expect that this will do best is your current book of record, making it grow. Like personalizing and making recommendations on new products that are very tailor-made, and then finding those opportunities that will be heavily automated. And the one on lead, honestly, I really need to think about that one because it might be interesting. But when it comes to specifically about agentic commerce, I have this strong opinion that this is going to be a huge channel. This is going to grow a lot, and it's going to be a customer acquisition channel, similar to what AdWords has been for long. I don't know if that's huge, but it will be on that level of scale, global scale. And
the second question is, currently, what is the most popular use case for the existing, what is the most popular product they use your solution for?
So the most popular is claims, as you've seen here. That's the one that is more demanded. And the next one is collections, in our case. It's collections, those two. Because I think that what those two have in common is that in the companies, they are sometimes, most of the time, outsourced to a BPO, and when that is the case, there is no need to reorganize internally the teams, but it's about switching vendors, switching provider. No? And then, if that is the case, then things move faster.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.